Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a geopolitical thought experiment that is just mind-bending. We're looking at a completely staggering scenario, an impossible what-if that would literally rewire the map of Europe overnight. We're going to break down the historical, economic, and military ripple effects of an event that, frankly, nobody thought could actually happen in the modern era. So buckle up, because once this hypothetical kicks off, the pace is absolutely relentless.
So here is the core question we are tackling today. What if Italy actually occupies Switzerland? I mean, really picture it. You've got this incredibly calm, ordinary morning in the Alps, suddenly replaced by an unimaginable crisis by nightfall. What exactly happens when a country that is known globally for its absolute neutrality and its fierce independence finds itself being taken over by a powerful, heavily armed neighbor?
You have to try and visualize this visceral scene. That peaceful postcard image of the Alps, the quiet mountain roads, the pristine valleys, violently shattered by the roar of tanks. Military convoys pushing across the borders, emergency sirens just echoing through those deep mountain tunnels. It's the sheer shock of an occupation hitting the quietest place in Europe. And the entire world would instantly be asking, how on earth did one of the most stable nations on the planet just become ground zero for a geopolitical nightmare?
All right, Section 1, the unthinkable invasion and these incredibly contrasting neighbors.
We're looking at a deeply jarring contradiction here. On one hand, you have Switzerland. It's not just a small country, it's practically a global brand. It is the ultimate symbol of neutrality, high-level diplomacy, and absolute financial trust. And then you look south to Italy, a major European heavyweight, a founding member of the EU, and a highly strategic NATO state with massive sway in the Mediterranean. If Italy actually made a move on Switzerland, the world wouldn't just be confused, it would be in a state of sheer, unadulterated disbelief.
Let's just walk through how chaotic those first 24 hours would be. Because in our highly connected world, there is absolutely no such thing as a stealth occupation. In hours 1 to 3, satellite pings, intercepted military chatter, and social media would trigger a massive panic way before news anchors even made it on air. By hours 4 to 6, we'd see total border closures and immediate strict airspace restrictions. And as we hit that 12 to 24-hour mark, the initial denial evaporates into this desperate, frantic global race to prevent a total European breakdown, all while financial markets violently crash in the background.
Which brings us to Section 2, Fortress Switzerland Awakens. Now, the Swiss don't just panic. They have a brilliant, highly decentralized emergency playbook. Their military is literally engineered for territorial defense and lightning-fast mobilization. Boom, Step 1, instantly shut every border crossing. Step 2, lock down the airspace. Step 3, trigger a massive call-up of reservists. Step 4, harden that critical mountain infrastructure. The whole strategy here isn't to necessarily defeat a massive army in an open field. It's to make the occupation so costly and so unbearable that the invader just has to give up.
And their absolute biggest ally in all this? The geography itself. The Swiss treat their terrain like a weapon. We're talking incredibly narrow roads, very limited, easily blocked mountain passes, and vital transport arteries, like the Gotthard Base Tunnel that can be shut down in an instant. The terrain is a strategic nightmare for anyone trying to take it. Even a technologically superior army is going to find itself totally bogged down in slow, incredibly expensive, politically disastrous operations when the very mountains themselves are rigged against them.
Moving out from the mountains, we hit Section 3, an economic earthquake.
Instantly, the incredibly deep connections in trade, finance, and transport between these nations would just snapshot. It's a complete freeze. If you've got any investments in Europe or rely on global logistics, you'd feel the shockwaves that very same day. Swiss banking, immediate violent panic, and massive capital flight. I mean, Switzerland is a foundational pillar of global finance. Tourism would obviously collapse overnight, supply chains and cross-border transport would just grind to a halt, and vital energy flows powering Central Europe would be severely disrupted.
But let's look at the aggressor here, because the cost for Italy would be unthinkable. Any strategic win they thought they were going to get would literally evaporate under the crushing weight of the economic backlash. We're talking devastating international sanctions, massive capital fleeing the country, and total diplomatic isolation. Plus, domestically, the Italian public would suddenly have to deal with the severe consequences of becoming the aggressor in Europe. That means fractured domestic stability, huge protests, and massive outrage on the streets of Rome and Milan.
Now, let's talk about the giant elephant in the room. Section 4, the NATO contradiction.
Here is the bizarre diplomatic paradox this whole thing creates. Switzerland is completely neutral, not a NATO member, but Italy absolutely is. Now, look at NATO's core mandate. It's an alliance built to defend against external aggression. It is totally, completely unequipped for an internal breakdown of this scale, or for a scenario where one of its own major members suddenly attacks a neutral neighbor. The entire credibility of the alliance would take a direct, devastating hit.
Because of that massive blind spot, you'd see an unprecedented diplomatic chain reaction spread like wildfire. The UN is immediately forced into emergency sessions. The European Union faces arguably the most severe existential crisis in its history. The US would be pushing incredibly hard for immediate de-escalation to avoid a wider conflict. And neighbors like Germany, France, and Austria are instantly pressured to step in. Almost immediately, the question shifts from whether Italy can win militarily to whether the rest of the world can prevent the entire continent from collapsing.
Which leads us to Section 5, the human and digital toll.
We really can't lose sight of the human cost here. Millions of everyday people in Switzerland would wake up to find their entire reality upended by an event they had absolutely no say in. We're talking about families suddenly deciding if they need to flee or shelter in place, hospitals dealing with extreme emergency conditions, supply lines failing to deliver food and medicine, and deep, lasting trauma echoing across the entire Alpine region for generations.
And this human element feeds right into a terrifying, very modern kind of dual-front crisis. On one hand, you have the physical reality, actual troops, closed borders, real shortages. On the other hand, pure digital distortion. The information war would be absolutely vicious. Social media would be flooded with fabricated clips, rapid-fire misinformation, and complete online hysteria. People wouldn't just be watching a crisis unfold. They'd be bombarded with 1,000 distorted versions of it, pushing the global public straight into sheer panic.
Let's pull back and look at the big picture. Section 6, the illusion of stability.
The fallout from this wouldn't just stay in Europe. Think about the chilling questions that capitals across Asia, Africa, and the Americas would suddenly have to ask themselves. Do international treaties actually matter anymore? Are small states safe? Does international law actually restrain power, or do powerful countries just do whatever they want? If the ultimate neutral nation can just be occupied, the entire concept of protected global sovereignty starts to crumble.
There's this incredibly powerful quote from our source material that really hits the nail on the head here. No system, however peaceful, is immune if a powerful enough actor decides to violate the rules. It really cements this chilling realization that peace is incredibly fragile. It relies almost entirely on the continuous restraint of those who hold the power.
You know the stability we wake up to every day? It isn't just a natural state of being. The entire post-war European order, the borders, the alliances, the institutions, the trade deals, all of it was meticulously engineered to make a scenario like this almost unthinkable. The very fact that we recoil at this what-if proves that the system still holds a lot of moral weight. But, as we've seen, it can all unravel, literally, overnight if the wrong decision is made.
Which leaves us with this final, really provocative thought to chew on. Is our global stability permanent, or is it just an illusion waiting for someone to test it? This scenario isn't just some wild military fantasy, it's a massive wake-up call about how fast a peaceful continent can slide right back into chaos. I hope this explainer challenged your assumptions today and really highlighted how interconnected and, frankly, fragile our world is. Stay curious, keep asking the big questions, and I'll see you in the next explainer as we tackle another impossible scenario.